There are decades where nothing happens, and then there's weeks where decades happen. This has been a crazy week, and we've got a lot to talk about. So Trump just made his first international visit, and it wasn't to Europe, it wasn't to Asia, it was to the Gulf. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. This wasn't just ceremonial. He could have gone to London for handshakes or tradition. This was a strategic move. And if you're a founder, what just happened here in the Middle East might shape where your next customers, investors, or even headquarters are going to be. Just look at this lineup. Amazon, a $5 billion AI zone with Humane in Saudi. Bechtel, building new airport terminals. Oracle, expanding cloud and AI across all three countries. Durrani Aerospace, building flying taxis with Saudi partners. Palantir, expanding AI defense infrastructure. Edrevel, delivering AI-powered education to 100,000 plus students. Qualcomm, 5G and semiconductors with Aramco. Those are some of the biggest US players. So it wasn't just Donald Trump and Elon Musk on that plane. That plane was packed with CEOs, deal makers, ready to shape the next decade. And if you're new here, my name's Johannes, and I'm currently in the process of launching a venture capital fund, taking you behind the scenes and sharing some insights that may be helpful. Today, we're looking at what happened on Trump's first visit and 7 factors that make the Middle East more appealing to founders than ever before. I moved to the UAE last year, and from my experience so far, I can say the energy you feel here is crazy. It can be at a dinner here in Dubai, on a skyscraper, or at a conference in Abu Dhabi. It feels like the future is being written right now. And I really admire this country, but I also like the US, so I was pleasantly surprised when Trump announced his visit. The deals that Trump made on his trip reminded me of actually the story of Dubai. I first read about it in the book called The Sheikh CEO. Building a strong economic foundation is a strategic way to calm down religious and social ambitions in the society. The skyscrapers are just the most obvious feature of that. Actually, the first thing that I noticed, shout out to the Smashy Business Show, great podcast, is that the US visit was fully broadcasted. Often when you have these kinds of visits, you see the shake hand video clips or pictures. In this case, the whole show was live on YouTube. Every handshake, every speech, every welcome parade. What fascinates me about Trump is his ability to put on a show and exude such charisma wherever he goes. He seemed very comfortable from what I saw. He even had a standing ovation to the song YMCA in Saudi Arabia. But in terms of branding and positioning, there's a different message in there for founders. You don't have to agree with the message to acknowledge that. Your brand is your leverage. Now let's talk about what he didn't do. He didn't go to Europe, and that's a clear signal. Europe is bureaucratic, self-centered, fragmented, and let's be honest, not exactly Trump's fan base. Meanwhile, the Gulf is booming and ambitious. People are willing to work and build something. If you're a startup, the best sectors to be active in Europe is anything that is sort of government related, where you can get subsidies, something that is on the moralistic agenda or where you have the attention of politics. Even then, the meager funding landscape makes it really difficult. And if you're working on something groundbreaking or revolutionary, forget about it. You better don't do that in Europe. Just look at Lilium or Volocopter. Germany just had 2 eVTOL companies fail recently. In the meantime, the American competitors, Joby and Archer, are set to soon start flying between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And this is not even related to Trump's visit right now. If you feel overlooked in London, Paris, or Berlin, come here. Founders get faster access to decision makers. As someone who's active in both Europe and the Middle East, the contrast is shocking. Speed matters, appetite matters, and in the Gulf it's clear they're really hungry here. Not long ago, this region was known for more conflict than capital. Now, commerce, not chaos, is the new peace process. You have the Abraham Accords, you have mega events like Expo 2020 or the Qatar World Cup. This region is telling the world, we're open for business. And here's the deeper insight for founders. When a region rewrites its story from oil and war to peace and prosperity, it creates massive structural gaps. For founders, that shift from conflict to commerce means a white space. There are regions reinventing themselves, and this reinvention is where startups thrive. You have these vision documents, and they're really a founder's invitation. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, they all have long-term national plans. It's Vision 2030 in Saudi, Qatar Vision 2030, UAE Centennial 2071. And they're not just buzzwords, they're coming with funding, infrastructure, and accountability. What does that mean for startups? It means governments that think like VCs almost. Reading these vision documents is like a cheat sheet for market entry. It's the innovation they want, and for that, they're willing to place long-term bets, and they want to play big. Contrast that with the UK, for example, where a new government's objective is to make the rich pay, with the effect that so many people are leaving. Europe is a great place for a summer holiday, but not for your business. When you pitch your startup here, don't just pitch traction. You should pitch alignment with these national visions. Show how your startup moves the needle on the country's vision. Smart cities, digital health, renewable energy, sustainability, that gets investor attention fast. In the Gulf, if your startup aligns with the national goals, that's when it's a good match. A lot of Europeans that I talk to still see the Gulf as sort of a sideshow. They often confuse countries. They think that Qatar is part of the UAE and Emirate. They think that Dubai is a country, but actually these countries are very proud nations. They're willing and probably more notably able to punch above their weight. They are growth engines, and they will shape not only commerce but also culture. Even people who can distinguish these countries still believe in the stereotype that everything is about oil. The UAE alone trades more non-oil goods than Hungary, Portugal and Ireland combined. Saudi is the 18th or 19th largest economy in the world, and it's rising. Trump's visit to the Middle East, combined with the huge amounts of MOUs that he's taking home, is another step towards quote-unquote legitimizing this region. Not that anything needs to be legitimized, but it brings these countries in front of the eyes of even the most uneducated. The real estate market in Dubai is already very hot with Asian and European money. Imagine what will happen if Americans suddenly want to get a piece of the action. All right, so let's talk about the factors that make the Middle East so appealing for startups. First of all, it's the capital, right? So obviously it's not capital lying in the street, but sovereign wealth funds, they want to back early innovation, and this is especially true. They can see what's in it for them, and they have a strategic mindset and will fund projects where they can see benefits for the region. And don't just think about raising from the government, but also you can sell to them. Ministries and sovereign funds here, they're often your first customer. Think like infrastructure, prop tech, gov tech, AI, logistics, climate, sustainability. There is a big willingness to do pilot projects, even with not established companies, as long as you can demonstrate that what you do works. Secondly, speed. There's no red tape here. You can incorporate higher and scale faster here. I just read this morning actually that there's a new type of business license coming to Dubai where you can set up a company in 60 minutes. Then there's the everything digital side of things. So my Emirates ID, my driving license, this is all digital, all on my phone. I got a parking ticket once, straight via SMS, and I settled it via Apple Pay within minutes. And it's the same for any government service. I can do everything on my phone. Third point is demand. The region is punching above their weight. Especially the UAE is built by immigrants. The local population would not be large enough to fill all these jobs. That goes for startups too. If you solve a real problem, you'll find acceptance and thus paying customers very fast. Fourth point, there's no legacy here. Unlike in the US or in Europe, you're not going to fight against entrenched old systems, where in Europe you often hear a sentence like, it's not possible because we've never done it this way. In the Middle East, not having done something is actually the driver. And they'll say, let's do it because we've never done it this way. On top of that, you have the factors of a founder-friendly environment, a great community, government-backed accelerators where events and networking happens, and of course tax advantages as a nice side effect because economics matters. And then the two last points are the youth surge. You have 70% under the age of 35. They're digital natives, they're ambitious, they're educated. And then the final point is access to a large population. Picture this, 4 billion people live within 1,000 miles of the Gulf. Let that sink in. 4 billion people, that's half the global population within 1,000 miles. And if you think about it, even the internet at the end of the day is physical cables. And that's why the AI deals are so crucial. You have to be close to the people you're going to be servicing. So with these points for founders, we're going to head back home and talk about what I think is the craziest point about Trump's visit. The most important thing to recognize regarding President Trump's visit to the Middle East is the shift in global dynamics that it entails. For a long period in history, the US was seen and also saw itself as the policeman of the world, intervening wherever it saw its own value system sort of in danger and effectively engaging in a new form of colonialism. This thinking is not exclusive to the US. European countries are also highly guilty of this. We're not the only ones on the global stage with an agenda. China was very openly pursuing a strategy they called Belt and Road, where they invested the government's balance sheet in strategic infrastructure projects, especially that happened in Africa, Southeast Asia, but also in the Middle East. Fast forward to today, Trump's $2 trillion deals are now reining in a new kind of economic alignment with the Middle East, all while showing a lot of respect, embracing their way of life, finding common ground without judgment. This is very different to the mindset of previous leaders. In the past, the American mindset was that there's our way and then there's another way, and the other way is always wrong. So we have to correct it. And President Trump is done with forcing the American view onto the world, focusing on his job as he sees it, protecting America. When I started spending more and more time here, I realized something. I realized the UAE, as I got to know it, the Gulf in general, they don't want to be the next something. They don't want to be the next Silicon Valley. And they want to be the first of something new. And if you can match that energy, that ambition, with a product, a company that works, you'll find tailwinds here that you don't get anywhere else. This Trump visit is a clear sign of how the new administration is thinking. Especially this Europe skepticism is something that we heard before. It was at the Munich Security Conference where Vance held a speech that shook Europe and showed from a US perspective what role Europe can play in the future if it wants that. Watch my take on this here.